The opioid epidemic has touched a lot of Arkansas families. According to the latest statistics, there have been 194 opioid-related deaths in the calendar year 2017. That is more than one death every other day. It has brought together 3 organizations to do something about it. I sat down with Ray Hanley, CEO of the Arkansas Foundation for Medical Care, Randy Zook, CEO of the Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas, and Curtis Barnett, CEO of Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield, to learn about their initiative called TogetherArkansas.com. Let's talk about just individually how the opioid crisis is impacting your organizations. Ray, I will come to you first. What has it done in terms of preparation for things that you have to do that you weren't doing before it really kind of landed on the radar?
You know, the impact at AFMC you asked about, we engaged with State Drug Director Kurt Lane early in his tenure. He showed up in our office. We learned a lot listening to him, particularly about fentanyl, which I'd never thought much about and didn't know much about. And when tiny grains can kill, a number of people. We have employees that are in physician offices every day doing the provider relations work. And, we engaged with them and started listening to them and learned more. We learned even more in our ACEs work with families in the dysfunction that is caused by opioids and the impact on children. And all that started to coalesce in a real understanding of what this is as a problem, and led to hopefully a lot of positive things, including engaging with Blue Cross and the Chamber.
Well, Randy, you obviously talk to a lot of employers of all magnitudes and sizes. Right. Particularly some of the larger employers. How has it changed the workforce in terms of what you're seeing from your members and the impact of it?
Well, first of all, it's a big challenge in lost time, absenteeism, even deaths, and it's not just employees; it's also employees' family members. So this has just a big impact on time available at work. And that's why HR managers all across the state, big companies, small companies, have been affected. 3 out of 4 companies have had some impact as a result of an employee's abuse of opioids. So it's a big deal. There's no question about that.
Curtis, I can speculate how it might impact health insurance, but tell me how Blue Cross Blue Shield has, I guess, seen this affect employers and their health insurance.
Yeah, Roby, from our perspective, we've heard the opioid epidemic be described as the all-American disease. And by that means all Americans, regardless of age, race, economic status, background, are affected by the opioid epidemic. Unfortunately, it's not a disease where you typically see a quick diagnosis, a quick treatment, and then somebody return to what we might think of as a normal life very quickly. It's typically a long journey. And we see those who are suffering from opioid addiction, we see them basically, it has a big impact on their physical health, has a big impact on their mental health. Unfortunately, too often it results in a death due to overdose. We see it take a tremendous toll on the families, an emotional toll, a physical toll, a financial toll on those families who are trying to help their loved one get through this. To the point where they need health care services as well in many cases. So it is a long journey. It's a big problem. I was talking with our social work team this week about some of the cases that they're dealing with, and they relate a story that unfortunately is all too typical, and that is this was a 22-year-old young man who had been a high school athlete. He was receiving opioids to treat sports injuries that he had suffered, and became addicted. And the complications from his addiction resulted in him flunking out of college. It affected his ability to get and to hold a job. He finally recognized that he needed treatment. His mother contacted the Arkansas Blue Cross care management team and said, "Can you help him get referred into a treatment program?" And so we did that. And unfortunately, he was in the program for a few days and he left the program. A few months later, he came back into the program and recognized again that he needed help. He finished the first part of the program, and then after that left, and once again before he was
the cycle that
recovered.
we see.
Exactly. Yeah. And then finally for a third time he came back, and this time he completed the first phase. He's in the second phase now, and he's doing much better. He seems to be on the road to recovery, but It took the patient's family, it took the provider of care, it took our care management team working almost constantly together for an extended period of time to get this person to the point where he is today.
And that's just one story out of
That's
thousands
exactly
of stories, right?
That's exactly right.
So you pulled these guys into an initiative that you have wanted to launch. This togetherarkansas.com is the website. Tell me what you're trying to accomplish by bringing in health insurance and the state chamber.
If you look at the impact on the state, and we're one of the highest per capita prescribers in the country. There's, I think, 105 scripts written for every 100 employees.
More prescriptions than there is population.
That's right. And it impacts everybody, as Curtis said. Every family is potentially at risk for this, certainly in the employment sector. And it impacts people in their working lives, just 18 to 64. That's where we've seen the addiction, the death rate. More people died of opioid overdoses last year than vehicle accidents for the first time ever. And it has actually lowered the average lifespan in this country, which has been creeping up for years. But now, for the last year or two, the average lifespan has actually dropped. And it is in very large part because of the impact in this 18 to 64 group.
What drew you guys to, I mean, obviously you're seeing the impact in the spaces that you're in right there, but why does this initiative and what you're trying to do, how is it going to move the needle?
Well, first of all, it's designed to give employers and HR managers within employing companies resources to try to help them deal with this. You know,
Give me examples.
Well, it's a 5-module video set that anybody can access through the webpage togetherarkansas.com, and it tells you how to identify it, the symptoms, what to look for, how to realize that somebody's in trouble at work, and then what to do from there. And it also helps employers dot all the I's, cross all the T's in maintaining a drug-free workplace. Testing protocols, when you can do this, how you can do it, how to get people to the resources like Curtis described, how do you move people into some kind of a rehabilitation or recovery effort and program so that they can get past this, because it sneaks up on people. It's insidious the way it works, and a lot of times it's sort of a byproduct of normal efforts to manage pain around surgery or accidents or workplace accidents come to mind. So that's how we got into it.
Is it too simple to say that that the prescription problem is the reason why we have the addiction problem? Is it deeper than that?
I mean, I think it is much deeper than that, Roby. I think it's not just the prescription, and people, unfortunately, are suffering from pain, and they need pain relief, and it's going to take a multifaceted approach to be able to address this problem. And I think that's what really attracted us to being part of this collaboration. I think we see that it is going to take all of us working together to have the kind of impact on the opioid epidemic that's needed. And I think we view this in particular as how can we equip Arkansas employers and businesses so that they're better prepared to deal with this. And I think particularly giving practical solutions, practical tools, information to Arkansas businesses, especially small businesses, mid-sized businesses who may not be or may not have access to the same level of information as large companies, is going to be critical to this. So not only does it engage them in battling this overall epidemic, but as Randy said, it helps keep their own businesses safe and productive as well.
Got to get you guys to look into a crystal ball here and tell me, how quickly can we get a handle on this? Ray, you mentioned we're among the worst states in the country on this. How quickly can we see the statistics change on this?
I think we have the potential to see it change over the next year or two. I think the prescribers, the physicians, are being responsive and listening and are engaged, and we're already seeing changes in the prescribing habits. We've got a excellent physician workforce in the state. They want to be part of the solution. They're where it starts, with the prescription pad, and I think they're engaged with us. That's going to help a lot. I think having the employers now have this resource that we're talking about. I think it's going to help them recognize things, make referrals, and deal with it. So I think we have the real collaborative potential to start to change this over the next year or two.
It's open to all of y'all. Are the right public policies in place to address this? Has the legislature been responsive enough with at the state and the federal level with money, with the right laws in place, the right ways to monitor some of this stuff? Do we have the right pieces of the puzzle laid out on the table?
I mean, I think we do. I think we do have good, strong public-private collaboration that's moving this issue forward. So I think that's moving in the right direction. I can't say enough about the great work that Kurt Lane, as the state's drug director, the work that he's been doing to really give leadership, again, to the public and private sectors to move this along, both the prescribers, and also not just to address the dispensing rate of opioids, but also treatment and giving people alternatives and care as well. And so all of that, I think, is coming together in a very positive way.
Randy?
There's probably never, never enough or adequate resources to deal with the illegal side of this. We've talked mostly about the legal drugs and prescription of those drugs, but the other side of it is very dangerous stuff that continues to flood into the U.S. from outside the U.S., typically through Mexico, but produced in China. Fentanyl, for instance. This stuff is just absolutely dynamite and incredibly dangerous and deadly.
It's not the first drug problem we've had in America, though. So
no, but I mean, it's a big problem. That's the point, because there's so much money involved and on an international scale. I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars trading hands over illegal drugs that are coming into the country. But I think Ray and Curtis are both right. We're on the right path. We're taking steps, and big chunks of improvement are occurring in a pretty short period of time. So there's reason to be optimistic. It's just we've all got to be realistic about it and understand that this is a tough problem.
we've seen lawsuits brought by some state attorneys general, with I think the Municipal League and the Association of Arkansas Counties here in Arkansas have brought lawsuits against some of the pharmaceutical companies. Is that a path towards a solution?
I think it's part of the path. I think some settlement along the lines of what we saw with tobacco 20 years ago, I think is inevitable. I think these companies, for the benefit of their shareholders and others, want to get this behind them. So I think there is going to be a global settlement of some sort.
Is it because there's some culpability there, or is it because they just produce the product that has become
Well,
abused?
I think it's both. I mean, I think the way particularly Purdue, for instance, marketed it, they have some real exposure and liability that they brought on themselves. And then again, it's responsibility to their own shareholders. They need to get this settled. And then the challenges for the state and municipalities that receive the money to invest it responsibly.
Randy?
Well, I think, as Ray said, the companies, the legitimate ones, the best ones, the best, are wanting to get this behind them and come to some kind of terms and create a pool, and it's going to be a huge resource to use to provide more resources to combat the problems and the effects of it. But, it's an unfortunate chapter in our business history, I guess was one way to say that, with a couple of these companies. But for the most part, I think the legitimate companies, Johnson & Johnson and Teva and others, they want to create, they want to step up and do what they need to do and get it done.
What else has to happen beyond TogetherArkansas.com? What else has to happen besides really putting more money into this problem-solving effort? I'm stumping the state here, aren't I? So.
I just think from my perspective, Randy hit on it earlier, and that is we are making good progress on the legal part of this, but the illegal part of this is going to be a problem. And when I talk to colleagues around the country and those in Appalachian states and into New England, fentanyl is the issue, and it's what they're dealing with on a much more significant basis. And so there's not going to be an end to this problem completely anytime soon. While we're going to make good progress, and we are making good progress, there's no question about that. But I think all of us, again, public and private sector, whether you're in the healthcare industry or outside of the healthcare industry, we all need to be braced that this is going to take a while and that we're going to have to stay engaged in this to make the difference that's needed.
All right, give you guys both the last word too. What else has to happen from your perspective?
I think we need to do a better job of getting people insured. We still have too many uninsured people in the state. And without coverage, you don't always have access to the treatment and the services you need. We need to do a better job with some of the insurance programs about recognizing and covering substance abuse and behavioral health issues. So coverage is important in order to get access to services.
The last word, Randy.
TogetherArkansas.com, absolutely no cost, free resource. Check it out.
That's Ray Hanley, CEO of the Arkansas Foundation for Medical Care, Randy Zook, CEO of the Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas, and Curtis Barnett, CEO of Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield, discussing the opioid crisis and their new initiative, TogetherArkansas.com. We'll have more with these gentlemen next week, and you can check out more online at talkbusiness.net.